Republican-controlled state legislatures are targeting LGBTQ plus rights all over the country. According to the ACLU, over 400 anti-LGBTQ bills have been introduced just this year. I sat down earlier today with Chasten, the husband of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, to talk about his new book, I Have Something to Tell You, on the challenges he faced growing up and how to support LGBTQ youth today. You are just back from being in your hometown of Traverse City, a place where it was not so easy to grow up you. What was it like to go home with a book in your hand, a guide to help young people just like you?
I was overwhelmed. I haven't felt nerves like that since, community theater plays. Because it mattered so much to go home and have those kinds of conversations at home and to meet the young people that were there.
How do you consider this book? If it's not a memoir, it's for young, is it a self-help book?
I think it's a little bit of everything. It's the book I wish I would have had in 8th grade. When I was growing up in Northern Michigan at the time, I thought I was the only gay person in the world. I thought something was wrong with me. And this is the book that I wish he could have read to help him understand that there was nothing wrong with him. And, he was great just the way he was.
We have come a long way since then, but the LGBTQ plus community is clearly under attack today. Do you think it's easier or harder to come out in 2023?
A little bit of both. I think it was getting better. I remember growing up and everyone kept saying it gets better, and it did in some ways. Marriage equality didn't exist. I never thought I would get to be a dad. But because it was getting better, I think some people are now focused on making it worse.
Why is that, right? Things were getting better, and now they're worse. What caused that?
Well, it works for the other side. They throw everything at the wall, what sticks, attacking the LGBTQ community, attack some of the most vulnerable kids in this country. So imagine growing up in this country now when you have social media, you have the world at your fingertips, and you watch people like your governor or your representative going into buildings and positions of power and doing everything they can, all of that platform, all of that privilege to attack you, a young LGBTQ person. You're their number one thing to work on.
Are you afraid that this book could get banned or just be inaccessible to young people in some of those vulnerable conservative communities, the people who maybe need to read this the most?
Yeah, I'm a dad and I taught middle school, so I wrote a completely age-appropriate book. So if it's banned, it's just politics. But I am worried about it not being able to get into the hands of the people that need it most. I hope folks will request that their local library carry it, so at least, a young person or a family might have access to that. But it's certainly something that I worry about. What if that could change a life? What if it could help somebody and they can't get it?
I want you to stay on the word help, because to me, this book isn't just for kids who are just like you. It's also for allies who just want to live in a better world.
Absolutely. I hope teachers and parents will find comfort in this book. And this is a season for active allyship. That means doing more than posting on social media. You have to get off the couch and find a way to use your positions of power or privilege or money or time to help. And helping can look like a myriad of things for everyone. But ask yourself, have I earned the title of ally, or have I just given it to myself?
If there is one lesson, one anecdote, one story in this book that if you were an 8th grader, it would have meant everything to you, what is it?
I could have benefited from a 10-second conversation with my parents when I was younger. 10 seconds.
It said what?
If they sat me down and said, we just want you to know that you are loved no matter what, unconditionally. If you're gay, straight, no matter what, you will always have a roof over your head and you will always have 2 parents who love you. Imagine if I could have heard that and then poured myself into everything else that young people should be paying attention to, sports, academics. But for 18 years, I hated myself because I was convinced that my parents would hate me and then I would lose everything. The number one thing I want young people to take away is that there is goodness out here in this world. People do love you. People are fighting for you. And for parents, sit down and have that conversation.
Right there. That lesson is less to the 8th grader and more to the parents, isn't it? It's not that your parents didn't love you. They obviously do. They were right by your side this weekend.
Yeah,
they didn't know to have that conversation.
That's the ending of that story. I ran away from home and my parents called me back. And people can come around. People can learn, people can be loving and accepting, and they can grow just like my parents.
Then I just want to go back to where we started. To go back this weekend
Yeah.
and be in your hometown, a place where as a young person you couldn't find your place. How incredible does it feel that there's a community there welcoming you, lining up to come see you speak?
The world comes around. I promise. My parents were there. Some friends I made after high school. We weren't friends in high school, but we became close friends. My kindergarten teacher was there. To know that your community is there and supports you, but especially for a place like Northern Michigan, that a sold out crowd of people wanted to have that conversation, wanted to hear what you had to say, because there are people in Northern Michigan and places like Northern Michigan all across this country who want to make things better. And you might not see that on the news every day, but believe me, people come around.
Does that give you hope that any community, any state, any city, any demographic can change if they open their hearts and minds?
Absolutely. And there are good people on the ground doing the hard work. We just have to uplift those voices more.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Congratulations.
Thanks for having me.